Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Make sure you like and subscribe. I haven't said that in a while, so I think I'm up to like over 90 subscribers, which is kind of crazy. So we started talking about vertical angles in class today, and you guys learned how to name an angle, all the different ways you can name an angle. You learned that vertical angles are angles like 1 and 3 and 2 and 4, they're kind of directly across from each other. And now we're going to talk about adjacent. Can you say that word? Adjacent angles. And this word adjacent are two angles, and two angles are adjacent if they share a common vertex, a common side, and do not overlap. So here's a few examples of adjacent angles. Angle 1 and 2 are adjacent. 1 and 2, they're right next to each other. They have a common side and a common vertex. 2 and 3, 3 and 4, and 1 and 4. Those are all adjacent. So adjacent just means next to, if you haven't heard that word before. So adjacent just means next to. Like if you rent a hotel room and there's a room adjacent to it, that means it's just the room right next to it. So adjacent angle pairs, remember we can use this symbol for angles. So angle 1 and 2 are adjacent angle pairs. So you need to be able to identify which are adjacent angles. So this is on page 396, by the way. And let's see. Yeah, this is example 4 at the bottom of page 396. Okay, so if we want to name all the angles that are adjacent to angle 1, here's angle 1. What do you think? Think about it for a second. So 1 and 2 have a common side and a common vertex. So 1 and 2 are adjacent angles. What other angle is adjacent to angle 1? It is, dun dun dun, angle 6. You got it. Good job, you guys. So 1 is adjacent to 2 and 6. It could have more than one adjacent angle. Again, just means next to. A classmate said that 4 and 5 are adjacent. Do you agree? Yes. 4 and 2, not adjacent. So you guys try the check problem on the top of page 391. Select all the angles that are adjacent to angle 3. And then let's look at this next example, or this next thing. Watch this quick video, and then I'll come back.
You can use adjacent angles to find an unknown value. Adjacent angles have a common vertex and a common side. They also do not overlap. Angle AEB and angle BEC are adjacent angles. If two adjacent angles form a straight angle, then the sum of their measures is 180 degrees. Angle AEB and angle BEC form a straight angle. Write an equation by substituting for each angle measure. The measure of angle AEB is given by the expression 5x. The measure of angle BEC is 115 degrees. The last step is to solve the equation to find the value of x. The value of x is 13.
Is that it? Is that all they wanted you to do was solve the equation? Okay, to find the value of x. All right, so I would have gone a step further and said that this angle has to be 5 times 13, or what is that? 15, 65 degrees. So let's look at some examples because they're not always going to form a straight line. So here's another example. This is on page 398 in your book. And this one, we want to find x. So algebra, like I said, algebra and geometry are really connected. You're not done solving equations just because we're moving on to shapes. But we are going to, with the shapes, also have equations that we're going to have to solve. So ABD, they tell us that ABD equals 128. So this whole angle here equals 128. And we want to find 5x. So can you guys see that these two adjacent angles, if I add these two together, those two together, 5x and 63, together have to equal 128. So adding those two together, you equal A, B, D, 128. So now we just solve this equation. So subtract 63 from both sides to get this, then divide by 5, and we get that x equals 13 again here. Let's look at another example. So for this one, this is like the same exact one as in the video. 115 and 5x, what do those add up to? So they're adjacent, but they form a straight line. So anytime two angles, adjacent angles, form a straight line, then they add up to 180. So 115 and 5x has to equal 180. And this was the same problem as before. In the example, they use the same numbers, which is kind of dumb. So you end up with x equals 13 when you solve it. So you guys try the check problem on the bottom of page 398, and then we are going to move on to the beginning of the next section. Okay, so because we're just doing parts of each section, we're going to start 8.2, and this is on page 403. So you guys can now move your books to page, or turn your books to page 403, and we're going to talk about complementary angles. And this section also includes supplementary, but we'll just talk about complementary in this part of the video. So two angles are complementary if the sum of their measure is 90 degrees. So if two adjacent angles, and actually they don't even have to be adjacent, but most of the time we're going to be looking at adjacent angles. So if two angles added together make 90 degrees, we call those complementary angles. And so at the bottom of page 403 is this example. Give the measure of the angle that is complementary to a given angle. So think about it. If I want to find an angle that's complementary to this, then I want that angle plus another angle to equal 90 degrees. So if I already have one of the angles is 60, then the other one we'll call x, and 60 plus x has to equal 90 if they're complementary. So now we just solve this equation. What does x have to equal? Well, we can subtract 60 from both sides, so x has to equal 30. So the angle that's complementary to the given angle is 30 degrees. So really all you're doing if you're finding complementary angles is finding if you have one, what's the other one that will add up to 90 degrees. So really you could just subtract it from 90 degrees. Go to page 4, actually do the check problem. At the top of page 404, you're going to find the angle that is complementary to each of those given angles. Now, I will say that for the check problem, part A, the angle is bigger than 90 degrees. So if an angle is already bigger than 90 degrees, it doesn't have a complement. So you can only find complementary angles to angles that are less than 90 degrees already. Okay, so we're once again going to use complementary angles to find values for x, so watch this.
You can use complementary angles to find an unknown value. Two angles are complementary if the sum of their measures is 90 degrees. Together, angle BAC and angle CAD form a right angle. A right angle measures 90 degrees, so angle BAC and angle CAD are complementary. Set the sum of the measures of the complementary angles equal to 90 degrees. Write an equation by substituting for each angle measure. The measure of angle BAC is given by the expression 9x. The measure of angle CAD is 36 degrees. The last step is to solve the equation to find the value of x. The value of x is 6.
Okay, so let's look at the example on page 405. And this will be the last example for this part of the video, but I'm going to just keep going. You just have to watch after this example. It's where you could stop for tonight, though. So I don't know if we've talked about this in this class yet, but when you see an angle and you see the little pink box there, that means that this is 90 degrees. So this is the symbol we use to show that an angle is a 90-degree angle. So you won't always be told that, so you want to look for that box. If you don't see it, if you just had this angle without that box, we can't assume that it's 90 degrees unless they tell us. But if you see that, that means it is 90. So now, if I want to find x, then what do these two together have to equal? if I add 2x and 28, and they're right next to each other, they're adjacent angles that form a right angle, then 2x plus 28, they have to add up to 90 degrees. So now, again, to solve for x, once you've gotten this part, you just solve the equation. We've done two-step equations lots of times now. Subtract 28 from both sides, divide both sides by 2, and we get that x equals 31. Excuse me. So let's look at one more quick example here. And then you guys will do the check problem on the bottom of page 405. So here, these two angles add up to 90 degrees. So 3x plus 9 is what this angle is, plus 27 equals 90 degrees. So now let's solve this equation. 3x plus 9. We'll subtract 27 from both sides. Ooh, excuse me. Let's simplify this equation first, sorry. So we actually have, let me write this here, 3x plus 9 plus 27 equals 90. So what you want to do is combine those first. This is 3x plus 36 equals 90. So anytime you have like terms on the same side, you want to combine those first. Now we can subtract 36 from both sides. Again, do one step at a time. Don't try to do too much in your heads. And this is 54. Now divide both sides by 3, and we get that x equals 18. So 18 is what x equals. And 3 times 18 is 54, plus 9 is 63, plus 27 equals 90. So that's how you can check your solution. So you can do the check problem on the bottom of page 405. Also on page 405, don't forget to get a parent signature. This is how I'm going to check in your homework for tonight. So get your parent to sign. That's my signature. You can't use mine because I'm not your parent. So get a parent to sign it. You can pause the video here, but I'm going to keep going, and then after this, on page 405, parent signature. So this is where the video for tonight stops, but I'm going to keep going, and the rest will be the video for tomorrow. So this is the second half of your video, which should be homework for the next night, and we are starting on page 406. So you are hopefully just coming back to this, and we are going to look now at supplementary angles. So we kind of already talked about supplementary angles in the first video when the one example said that if two angles form a straight line, they're 180 degrees. But two angles are supplementary if the sum of their measures is 180 degrees. So some people remember like complementary, supplementary. Some people have a hard time figuring out which is which. Supplementary starts with an S and straight line, so supplementary makes a straight line. So if that helps you understand that supplementary straight line, 180 degrees, complementary is like a corner, which is 90 degrees. So a corner is complementary, makes a 90-degree corner, if you want to think about it that way. So really quick here, the measure of angle 3 plus the measure of angle 4 will equal 180 degrees if they are supplementary. So on page 406, if we want to find an angle that's supplementary, then really all you're going to have to do, instead of solving an equation, it's really just, it's technically solving an equation, but backwards. So you're just subtracting whatever the angle is from 135 degrees. So from 180 degrees. So 180 minus 135 is 45 degrees. We could say that x plus 135 equals 180. And then you still subtract 135. But if you want to not write an equation, that's fine. All you have to do is subtract this from 180 to find its supplement. So on page 407 at the top, just try that check problem quickly. Now, supplementary angles, again, have to be less than 180 degrees to begin with. So if it's already 180 degrees, it doesn't have a supplement. The supplement of this angle would be 90 degrees because 90 plus 90 is 180. The supplement of this would be 165 because 165 plus 15 equals 180. So on page 407, Again, we will use supplementary angles to find missing values, so you can watch this.
You can use supplementary angles to find an unknown value. Two angles are supplementary if the sum of their measures is 180 degrees. Together, angle ADB and angle BDC form a straight angle. A straight angle measures 180 degrees, so angle ADB and angle BDC are supplementary. Set the sum of the measures of the supplementary angles equal to 180 degrees. Write an equation by substituting for each angle measure. The measure of angle ADB is 108 degrees. The measure of angle BDC is given by the expression 4x. The last step is to solve the equation to find the value of x. The value of x is 18.
Okay, so same as the last situation. We're just going to basically set up an equation, and here, so this is a little fence. This is on page 408, by the way. If I want to find the value, what do these two angles together, what would these two together add up to? Because they form a straight line, then those two angles are supplementary and they would add up to 180 degrees. If you hear something in the background, that is my dog. She has the zoomies because no one ever plays with her, so she's going a little bit crazy right now. So one of those is 10x, one of those is 80, and oops, did I write that wrong? 10x, what is that? Hold on a second. Okay, I'm not crazy. It is a 10, so I don't know why it's saying it's incorrect. So let's try again, because it's not 90. 10x plus 80. Okay, there we go. That was weird. So we write the equation and then solve it just like before. Subtract 80 from both sides. Divide by 10. X equals 10. So we're done from there. Okay, one more example. These two form a straight line. So 8x plus 116 also equals 180. And then subtract 116 from both sides, divide by 8 to solve for x. So I'll let you do the solving part, but that's how you would set up the equation. So you guys try the chalk problem. On the bottom of page 408, you'll notice that it's a spider web, so you should draw Charlotte in that web. Not Charlotte O'Neill, but Charlotte's, the spider from Charlotte's Web. You should draw Charlotte in that web, and then have your parents sign next to that on page 408. And that is all for now.